Freezing rain hammered the windows of the Seattle office, each drop hitting the glass like a tiny explosion. It was mid-January, a Thursday that dragged on like a punishment. I hunched over my keyboard, fingers racing across my Excel sheet, trying to untangle a supply chain mess that threatened to blow up shipments to 3 continents. Overhead, the fluorescent lights buzzed at that frequency that drills right into your skull, and somewhere down the hall, the printer jammed for the 3rd time that afternoon. My phone lit up. "Mom." My face softened. I grabbed the phone with one hand, still saving my work with the other. That morning, I'd wired $5,500, every last cent of my hard-earned bonus, to book our flights to Italy for Sienna's wedding on the Amalfi Coast. I couldn't help but smile. It felt good, doing something for family. Made me feel like family still mattered. "Hi, Mom. Did you get the Anya, honey?" There's been a small change to the sleeping arrangements at the villa. Anya Vance, my mom, had this chipper tone she reserved for bad news, the same one she used when she accidentally donated my entire rock collection to Goodwill when I was 12. The groom's business partner, he's very important, dear, invested in Jasper's startup, so, well, we gave him your room. My fingers froze. The Excel sheet blurred in front of me. Outside, the gray sky pressed closer to the window. Where am I supposed to sleep? Oh, you're so resourceful, sweetheart. There's a perfectly nice youth hostel in Salerno about 7 miles from the villa. I looked it up and it has excellent reviews. Well, mostly excellent. 3 stars. My face went cold. A youth hostel. While Sienna and Jasper would have the master suite. Chloe, the youngest, would snag the room with the sea view. My parents would get the guest cottage. And me? The hostel. Mom, I just sent you $5,500 for the tickets this morning. Did you? She went quiet. Really quiet. I could hear her breathing, probably fiddling with her pearl necklace, the one I found for her last Christmas when she lost it. Well, about that, honey. Chloe really needed good photos for her Instagram. You know how important her influencer career is. The lighting and economy is just terrible, all those bins and cramped seats. So I used that money to upgrade her to first class. It was only $5,500, and it'll make such a difference. She's going to tag the airline and everything. My hand clenched around the phone. Suddenly the office felt too hot, too tight, the air thick even as winter seeped through the old windows. And my ticket? What about my ticket? Oh, you always figure things out, Anya. You're so good at finding deals. There's an economy flight with 3 layovers: Seattle, Toronto, Lisbon, Naples. Gets you there just in time for the reception. It's only 19 hours. You might miss the ceremony, but honestly, you've already seen Sienna in a wedding dress at every bridal shower. And you don't mind flying economy, do you? You're not fussy like Chloe. The words hit like punches. You always figure things out. My vision narrowed. In my head, a slideshow started up, 10 years of memories, flicking by like a broken PowerPoint. Filing their taxes every April because Dad never figured out TurboTax. Resetting the Netflix password every month because Mom couldn't remember it. Driving across town at midnight to pay Dad's parking tickets before collections called. Explaining credit card charges to Chloe. Teaching Sienna how to use mail merge for her invitations. Fixing the Wi-Fi. Programming the thermostat. Updating their phones. Remembering everyone's birthdays. Sending Christmas cards. Booking restaurants. Making reservations. You always figure things out. Not thank you. Not we appreciate you. Not what would we do without you. Just, you always figure things out. Because I was a utility. A free service. Something to be used, then put away. My phone buzzed in my hand, an email notification. I glanced at the screen. Confirmation. First class upgrade. Chloe Vance. SEA to NAP. $5,647.80. There it was. The confirmation, sent to the family email account that I managed because no one else checked it. My $5,500. My bonus, earned from 16-hour days during the port strike. Money I saved by skipping takeout, packing lunches, walking instead of Ubering. all turned into champagne, lie-flat seats, and warm towels for my 22-year-old sister, who'd never worked a full-time job in her life. Nothing inside my chest broke. It didn't crack or shatter. It just froze solid. 1 second, I still had warmth, hope, maybe, toward my family, and the next, it was gone. Everything inside me turned to ice, sharp and permanent and cold as hell. I felt clear for once. Honey? Are you still there? Anya? I didn't yell or plead or even raise my voice. When I finally spoke, I sounded calm. Too calm. I'm here. Oh, good. So you'll check those economy flights? And maybe bring some snacks? Airport food costs a fortune, and I have to go, Mom. There's something I need to take care of. Of course, dear. Don't work too hard. We'll see you in Italy. Oh, and could you bring that scarf Sienna wanted? The blue one? She forgot to ask you, and I hung up. For a minute, I just sat there, staring at the rain streaking down the window. Then I reached under my desk, behind that box of printer paper nobody ever touched, and pulled out the little safe. My fingers found the old passbook right away. Aunt Miriam's savings account. $95,000, just sitting there. Aunt Miriam, my dad's eccentric older sister, died 3 years ago. At the funeral, she'd pulled me aside. This was 2 hours before she collapsed, while everyone else was in the church, and pressed the passbook into my hand. This is for when you can't stand them anymore, she whispered, her hand dry and surprisingly strong. Not if. When. Because they'll drain you dry, sweet girl. They'll take until there's nothing left. This is your escape hatch. Use it. I laughed it off then. Thought she was being dramatic. I wasn't laughing now. I opened my desk drawer, grabbed a scrap of paper, and wrote one line with a steady hand. Mom, you're right. I do always figure things out. And I'm going to figure out my own life, starting right now. Then I picked up my phone and called her back. She answered instantly. Did you find a flight already? I told you that you were Mom, I cut in, my voice cold as steel. You're right. I do always figure things out. And I'm going to figure out my own life, starting right now. What? Honey, what are you? I hung up. Then I turned my phone off for good. Outside, the freezing rain kept falling, but I didn't feel cold anymore. I didn't feel much of anything. And somehow, that felt perfect. Friday morning came in with the kind of cold that makes Seattle feel like another planet. I walked into the office in yesterday's clothes, after a night on the couch making lists and staring at the ceiling. My resignation letter waited in a manila envelope under my arm. Carson Locke's office sat on the corner of the 12th floor, all glass walls and furniture he'd charged to the company. Through the window, I watched him lounging in his leather chair, feet on the desk, yelling into his phone. Probably bragging about something he didn't do again. I didn't bother knocking. I just walked in and dropped the envelope on his desk. Carson glanced up, annoyed. He held up a finger, wait, and kept talking. Yeah, we crushed that logistics problem. I stayed up all night working on it. My team's great, but you know how it is. I always have to do the heavy lifting. I'd worked until 2 a.m. on that problem. Carson spent his night at a sports bar. Finally, he hung up and grabbed the envelope. His eyes flicked over the letter, and then he looked up at me with that smirk, the one that always made me want to peel my own skin off. Immediate resignation? What, you get a better offer? Something like that. Carson leaned back, his grin turning wolfish. I don't think so, Vance. You signed a non-compete. 12 months. You work for any logistics company in North America or Europe, and I'll see you into the ground. I'll make sure you never work in this industry again. He'd threatened plenty of people with that speech. He liked to keep talented folks trapped, burning out while he stole their ideas. I picked up my box, Aunt Miriam's coffee mug, the little succulent that survived 3 years of office neglect, the photo from my college graduation. I looked at Carson and smiled. Don't worry, Carson. I'm heading somewhere you don't even know exists on a map. His smirk twitched. What's that supposed to mean? It means your non-compete only covers North America and Europe. But the world's a lot bigger than that. Have a nice life. I walked out of his office and left the door wide open behind me. He shouted something about professional courtesy, but I was already in the elevator. The doors slid shut. That part of my life was over. The next 2 days felt like a controlled demolition. By noon Friday, I'd taken $14,000 in cash from CarMax for my car. It was a lousy price, but I didn't hesitate. That weekend turned into a whirlwind. I tossed my furniture on Facebook Marketplace, priced so low it actually started a bidding war. Strangers streamed in and out, carrying off my couch, my table, my bed frame. By Sunday night, the place echoed. Empty. Monday morning, I walked into the leasing office and slapped $2,800 in cash on the counter. I wanted out of my lease immediately. The manager stared at me like I'd lost my mind, pointed to the 60-day notice clause, but money talks. Bureaucracy melts in the face of a fat stack of bills. By noon, I was sitting in a bank that stayed open late, moving every cent I had, my savings, the car money, 3 years of careful scrimping, and Aunt Miriam's $95,000 into an HSBC expat account. My parents had no clue it even existed. It couldn't be traced through any of the family's usual channels. That night, around 9, I parked myself in a coffee shop and opened my laptop for the last time. I set up a scheduled email, just one message to go out to my parents on the 1st of every month. Simple: I am still alive, safe, and healthy. Do not waste time filing a police report. I will not reply to anyone. It was perfect proof of life, but nothing they could use to find me. They couldn't claim I was missing, couldn't track me, couldn't reach me. I'd be a ghost, present, but untouchable. I scheduled those emails for 5 years and shut the laptop. By 10, I was in a Verizon store, buying a cheap prepaid phone with cash. 20 minutes later, I'd copied just the essentials, no family, and snapped my old SIM card in half. I tossed it in a trash can outside. Midnight found me at Seattle-Tacoma, standing in line for a one-way ticket to Lima, Peru. Not North America, not Europe. Carson's non-compete had nothing on Peru. And I knew Peru had something else: alpaca wool, leather, textiles, suppliers nobody in Seattle had a line on. I'd been researching for months, looking for an edge. A chance to build something of my own. Turns out, that chance came sooner than I thought. At 3 in the morning, the plane lifted off. I watched Seattle's lights shrink, then vanish. Somewhere back there, my old phone was buried in a landfill, and my family was probably starting to freak out. I couldn't see what was happening in Seattle while I was gone. But from the records, the angry voicemails I ignored, and what Sienna finally told me through tears, I know exactly how the Vance family fell apart without me. 3 days after I left, back in Bellevue, my dad sat at his computer, trying to check the family's investment portfolio, the thing I usually handled every quarter. The system wanted 2-factor authentication. He clicked send code. The screen flashed, code sent to phone ending in 88. He frowned. That wasn't his number. Tried again. Same result. He called my mom into his study. Do you know whose number ends in 88? She squinted. That's Anya's number. Why are your investment codes going to Anya? Dad just stared at the computer, the realization sinking in. She set it up, he said. She set up all our accounts. The security questions, the backup numbers, everything. They both just stood there, the same thought hitting them at once. Mom grabbed her phone and tried calling me. Straight to voicemail. The number you have dialed is not in service. She tried again. Same thing. George, she said, voice tight, call her office. Dad did. The receptionist at my old job chirped, Anya Vance no longer works here as of last week. He balked. What do you mean, she doesn't work there? She didn't say anything about quitting. Sorry, sir, that's all I can say. Have a great day. Click. Mom's phone buzzed. My first email had landed. I am still alive, safe, and healthy. Do not waste time filing a police report. I will not reply to anyone. Dad read it over her shoulder. What the hell does that mean? But Mom already knew. Standing there in the study, surrounded by the life I'd helped keep running, she got it. Just like that, she knew I was gone. Really gone. And I'd locked them out of everything as I walked out the door. 3 months later, spring arrived on the Amalfi Coast. Wisteria bloomed. The Italian sun slipped through the windows. Sienna's wedding was supposed to be perfect. Instead, it turned into a circus. The florist dropped off white roses, not cream, and nobody knew which vendor to call to fix it. I was the only one who had everyone's contact info, and, well, I wasn't there. The seating chart looked like a bad spelling bee, 3 names butchered by the calligrapher, and nobody caught it in time to order new place cards. Guests were chasing down the caterer, asking about nut allergies or celiac this and that, and the poor guy just looked lost. Meanwhile, Chloe stood in the courtyard, twirling in her bridesmaid dress, phone up for the perfect selfie. She'd posted 17 Instagram stories from her first-class flight, champagne in hand, and that silly airline sleep mask on her forehead. Her followers noticed, too. Some asked why she was living it up while her sisters seemed to have vanished. Sienna stood by the fountain, her makeup artist dabbing at mascara streaks. She was crying, and not from happiness. "Where is she?" Sienna kept asking. "Where's Anya? She'd handle this. She always does." Mom tried to comfort her, patting her shoulder. "She's just running late, dear. Flight delays." But Mom wasn't fooled. She'd gotten my monthly email right on time. "I'm alive, I'm safe, I'm healthy. Don't bother calling the police." I'm not replying. The wedding happened anyway. Sienna and Jasper said their vows as the sun dipped behind the cliffs. It was beautiful, even with all the hiccups. But there was an empty chair in the front row, and nobody mentioned it. Back in Seattle, everything was falling apart. Bills piled up on the kitchen table, utilities, water, property tax, the IRS payment Dad always forgot unless I set it up. He tried to log in to pay, but he got locked out. Two-factor authentication, security questions, stuff I'd set up years ago. He called the bank. They wanted the usual, social security number, Mom's maiden name, first pet. He managed that. But then, "What's your favorite fictional character?" Dad had no clue. "Superman? Nope." "James Bond? Nope." After 2 strikes, he started sweating and gave up. Mom took a shot. "Elizabeth Bennet." Wrong again. "Account locked. Please visit a branch location." So they dragged themselves to the bank with 2 forms of ID and their marriage certificate. 3 hours later, they got temporary access. By then, it was too late. The IRS bill was overdue. April 15th had come and gone. Now it was June, and the penalties were stacking up, $500 a month, interest at 6%. Because the payment was late, the IRS also noticed Dad had underpaid last year. More penalties. More interest. Total bill, $87,000 due now. Dad looked like someone had drained all the color out of him when he opened that letter. Chloe, meanwhile, kept burning through money in Italy. Designer dresses in Milan, handbags from Florence, fancy dinners, all on the family credit card. She tagged every restaurant, stacking up likes like it was her job. Then the statement arrived, $41,000. Mom actually gasped. "Chloe, what the hell is this?" Chloe didn't even look up from her phone. "Work expenses. Content creation. I need good backdrops for my posts." Mom stared at her. $41,000 of backdrops? "We don't have that kind of cash, Chloe." Chloe just shrugged. "You don't understand influencer economics. I have to look successful to be successful. That's how it works." But the family's money was running out. Dad had already borrowed against his 401k for the IRS. The credit card debt was pushing them over the edge. Their once perfect 810 credit score dropped to 680 in a single quarter. Banks started declining their cards in checkout lines. It was humiliating. And while my family unraveled in Seattle's spring, I was 5,000 miles away in the Andes, convinced I was dying. The fever hit 3 days back. I'd been hiking through mountain villages, talking to textile suppliers, when the headache started. By nightfall, I was shaking so hard I could barely hold a cup, even under 3 blankets. The next morning, standing made the room spin. The hostel owner, Rosa, a kind woman, brought soup and medicine. I tried to thank her, but my teeth just chattered. I tried to sit up, but my body just wouldn't let me. I flopped back onto the pillow, sweating through my hair, barely holding onto my phone. I stared at my mom's name on the screen. Just one call. That's all it would take. "Mom, I'm sick. I need help." She'd come. They'd all come. They'd pay for doctors, for a flight home if I needed it. That's what family's for, isn't it? But then I heard it, rattling around in my fevered brain. You always figure things out. Not, we'll help you. Not, we'll take care of you. Just, you always figure things out. Because when they did help, there were always strings attached. Expectations. The silent deal. I'd go back to being their free tech support, their unpaid assistant, their emergency contact for every crisis they couldn't handle themselves. My grip on the phone loosened. It slipped onto the thin mattress. Rosa walked in, saw the state I was in, and sat down beside me. She lifted my head and spooned warm broth into my mouth, whispering soft words in Quechua. I couldn't understand a thing she said, but somehow, her voice made me feel safe. In 5 minutes, this stranger cared for me more than my family had in 5 years. 3 days later, I woke up. Weak, but clear-headed. The fever had finally broken. I pushed myself upright, everything aching but finally working again. My phone was still where I'd dropped it. Lying there, I realized something inside me had died over those 3 days. Not my body. My body survived. What died was that last bit of hope that family meant more than shared DNA or awkward holiday dinners. The part that believed if I just tried harder, did more, maybe I'd finally earn their love. That was gone now, frozen out of me in a drafty hostel room in the Andes. What was left? Something colder, harder, and laser-focused. Over the next year, I turned into a rumor in the supply chain world, a ghost people whispered about. I started small, using Aunt Miriam's money to buy samples from local artisans. Alpaca scarves. Leather bags. Textiles that American boutiques would kill for. I spent weeks in villages nobody could find on Google Maps, figuring out who made the best stuff. I bargained in clumsy Spanish that got better every day. Learned to read the sky, learned which buses broke down and which ones made it. I could spot good fabric just by touching it. Slowly, people started to talk. The American woman with the cold eyes, she pays fair, she delivers on time. That's what they called me. Not warm, not chatty, but dependable. Someone who keeps her word. By month 6, I had exclusive deals with a dozen family workshops. By month 9, I was shipping containers of goods to little shops in New York and California. The money didn't just come in, it poured. By month 14, I'd turned Aunt Miriam's $95,000 into almost $320,000. Then Beatrice Ford called. Beatrice Ford is a legend. She built Nexus Logistics from a single warehouse in Newark into a global monster that made Carson Locke's company look like a lemonade stand. She's in her 50s, iron gray bob, sharp as a razor. Ruthless in business, loyal to her people. She tracked me down through the supply chain grapevine. Apparently, the American woman with the cold eyes was making waves. We met at a cafe in Lima. She ordered her coffee black and wasted no time. I don't care about your resume. I don't care about your degree. I don't care that you quit your last job without warning. What I care about is you did in a year what most people can't do in 5. I need someone who can build something from scratch. Someone who doesn't quit when it gets ugly. From what I hear, you pushed through fever and altitude sickness to close deals that would have sent my team running home. I sipped my coffee. What are you offering? Global Strategy Director. Seattle headquarters. Team of 20, $15 million budget, total freedom to build out South American supply chains. Salaries $245,000, with bonuses that could double it. Benefits, relocation, corner office overlooking Puget Sound. It was 3 times what Carson paid me. Normally, you'd need an MBA from Harvard and 15 years to even apply. When do I start? Beatrice smiled. The kind of smile a shark gives when it smells blood. I want you in Seattle by June 1st. We'll take care of everything. You just showed up and started making me money. I did the math. It had been almost 16 months since I left. Fine by me. We shook hands. That was that. On June 1st, I landed at Seattle-Tacoma. When I left, it was freezing rain, 2 suitcases, and a heart in pieces. This time, I came back in bright sunlight, hauling 4 suitcases, $320,000 in assets, and a job that made my old one look like a joke. I didn't call my family. Didn't even tell them I was back. If they wanted proof I was alive, they could check my monthly email updates like everyone else. I had work to do. Nexus Logistics headquarters took up the top dozen floors of a glass tower downtown. During the day, it caught clouds. At night, it glowed. My office sat up on the 42nd floor with these massive windows that made Puget Sound look like it belonged to me. It was August. I'd been there 3 months. In that time, I'd overhauled Nexus's entire South American supply chain, slashed shipping costs by nearly a quarter, and locked down exclusive deals in Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador. My team thought I was a miracle worker. Beatrice kept sending emails that started with things like "You're making me rich," always in all caps. Carson Locke, on the other hand, was losing his mind. I first realized Carson was paying attention when an old colleague sent me a warning text. Someone who kept in touch, even after the non-compete mess. The message was blunt. Carson knows you're at Nexus. He just lost the Argentinian contract to US. He's furious. Be careful. No surprise there. Seattle's logistics world is tiny and word travels fast. I knew he'd hear sooner or later. What I didn't see coming was him going after my family. I wasn't there when Carson met my sister. Chloe told me everything later, spilling the whole sad story like she wanted to be forgiven. It felt like something out of a bad movie. Chloe was desperate, credit cards maxed out, bills piling up. My parents had finally canceled all her cards. She was actually working for the first time in her life, but influencer money is fickle and her followers had gotten bored once she ran out of glamorous places to show off. She was broke, angry, and looking for someone to blame. So when Carson slid into her DMs with an offer, she listened. They met at a Starbucks in Belltown. Carson smiled, bought her some $20 drink, and flattered her posts. "Your sister really screwed me over," he said, stirring his coffee. "Left me high and dry. Broke her non-compete. Stole my contacts. I'm building a case, but I need proof." Chloe leaned in. "What kind of proof?" "Emails. Chat logs. Anything showing she downloaded company files before quitting. I know she used the family email for work stuff. If you get me access to those, I can finally nail her." Chloe squinted at him. "What's in it for me?" Carson pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. Inside, a neat stack of $100 bills. She counted. $10,000. "Consulting fee," Carson said, grinning. "And if I win and sue Nexus, there's more where that came from." Chloe didn't hesitate. She told herself I deserved it. I'd abandoned the family, left them to deal with debt and disaster. She needed the money. She deserved it. After all she'd been through, she took the envelope. 2 weeks later, Carson filed a complaint with the Nexus board. The email in my inbox was cold and sharp. "Board meeting. Conference room A. 2 p.m. Monday. Your presence is required. Bring legal counsel if desired." I read it 3 times. Opened the PDF attached. It was a work of fiction, doctored emails, fake chat logs, timestamps showing me stealing confidential data. All of it fake. But it looked real. Real enough to get me fired, to wreck my name. Real enough to end everything I'd worked for. I grabbed my phone and called Carmen, my lead IT specialist. She'd done digital forensics before Nexus, and she was brilliant. "Carmen, I need the full cloud audit trail from my last company. Every file, every login, every timestamp. Monday morning. Can you do it?" She paused. "For you?" "Hell yes. This is about that complaint, isn't it?" "Yes." "Then let's bury whoever tried to bury you." Monday afternoon showed up with sunshine so bright Seattle almost felt like it had a soul. I walked into conference room A in a navy suit, laptop bag slung over my shoulder. The board sat around a huge table. Beatrice took the head seat, for execs lined up beside her. Carson Locke sat straight across from me, grinning like he'd already cashed the check. Beatrice didn't bother with small talk. "Mr. Locke has brought serious allegations against Ms. Vance," she said. "He claims she broke her non-compete and stole proprietary data from his company before joining us." "Mr. Locke, present your evidence." Carson sprang up, all eager, and started flipping through his PowerPoint, the type that would make any lawyer beam. Doctored emails. Fake timestamps. Fake chat logs. "As you can see," Carson said, Ms. Vance systematically downloaded client information to her personal computer in the 2 weeks before her resignation. She then used that info to steal our clients for Nexus. This is theft of trade secrets, and I'm ready to sue both her and this company for over $10 million. Silence. Beatrice turned to me. Do you have anything to say? I stood. No nerves, no fear. Just the look of someone who'd been waiting for this. I do. I opened my laptop and hooked it up to the projector. Mr. Locke's evidence looks impressive. Too bad it's entirely fake. I clicked. Up came a thick spreadsheet. This is the cloud audit trail for my user account when I worked at Mr. Locke's company. Microsoft Azure keeps these logs. They can't be changed or erased, not by anyone, not even admins. I pointed to a row. This is the file Mr. Locke says I downloaded on January 10th, 2 weeks before I resigned. His timestamp shows 2:15 p.m. that day. I clicked again. But the actual audit trail says something else. This file wasn't created until April 3rd, 3 months after I'd left the company and the country. A ripple of murmurs moved through the room. Carson's face drained of color. But here's where it gets interesting, I said, still calm. The audit trail shows this file was created by someone with IT admin privileges, and not just anyone, from Mr. Locke's own computer. He made a backdated file on his machine and tried to pass it off as evidence. He forgot that the cloud keeps its own locked records. I clicked through more screens, showing every mismatch between Carson's evidence and the real logs. Every single piece he brought is fake. And I can prove it right down to the second. The room broke out in noise. Peterson, a gray-haired board member, leaned in. Mr. Locke, this is serious. Are you saying Ms. Vance is lying about these cloud records? Carson stood up, face bright red. Those records could be manipulated. They can't, Carmen said, stepping into the room. I'd asked her to wait outside until I needed her. I'm Carmen Reeves, digital forensics specialist. I pulled these directly from Microsoft servers with legal authorization. They're cryptographically signed and timestamped. Nobody can alter them. What Ms. Vance is showing you is the truth. Beatrice's eyes narrowed. Mr. Locke, you came into my company and accused my employee of a crime using faked evidence. Do you have anything to say for yourself? Carson opened his mouth, shut it, then tried a new angle. Even if the files are wrong, she still violated her non-compete. She's working in logistics. That's forbidden. My non-compete covered North America and Europe, I cut in. I spent over a year in South America. That's not restricted. I didn't break anything. But you just tried to commit fraud and extort this company. That's a crime. The silence was heavy. I set my phone on the table. There's something else you should know, Mr. Locke. While you were busy making up evidence, I did some research of my own. I clicked my laptop again. A customs form came up. This is a harmonized system code for a container you shipped last month. You declared it as rubber shoe soles under HS code 6406.2, which only gets a 2.5% tariff. I clicked again. A photo filled the screen, a shipping container packed with high-end leather shoes. But the container actually held finished men's leather footwear, which should have been declared under HS code 6403.99. Not only is the base tariff 8.5%, but since these came from a region with active trade sanctions, there's an extra 25% anti-dumping duty. You've been mislabeling containers on purpose to dodge almost 30% in taxes. That's straight-up customs fraud. Carson's face drained from red to white in an instant. Where'd you get those photos? He demanded. I shrugged. I didn't, U.S. Customs did. I tipped them off 3 days ago anonymously. This morning, they opened your container at the port of Tacoma. Now, based on what they found, they're getting a warrant to audit your import records for the past 5 years. Right then, the conference room door swung open. 2 people walked in, both in dark suits, badges on display. Carson Locke? I'm Special Agent Morrison, U.S. Customs and Border Protection. We have a warrant for your company's records. You'll need to come with us for questioning. Everything exploded. Carson started shouting about lawyers. Beatrice shot out of her chair. The board lost any sense of order, everyone talking at once. I closed my laptop, grabbed my bag, and walked past Carson as the agents read him his rights. No gloating, no smile, nothing. I just left him there, his career collapsing, just like he'd tried to do to me. Turns out, karma works faster than any supply chain. That evening, Beatrice called me into her office. "That was the most spectacular professional takedown I've seen in 30 years, she said, pouring 2 glasses of scotch. "How long have you had that customs fraud info?" "Since month 6 in Peru," I told her. "I'd heard whispers about his shipping tricks through our suppliers. Started documenting everything. Figured he'd come for me eventually. Guys like Carson always do." She handed me a glass. "You played the long game." I smiled. "Learned it from my family. They taught me that if you let people, they'll take everything. So I stopped letting them." We toasted. Then Beatrice grinned. "By the way, the board voted. You're promoted. Senior VP of Global Operations. Effective immediately. 45 grand raise and a seat at the table." I set my glass down, stunned. "I don't know what to say." She smirked. "Say yes, then get back to making me rich." I laughed. Yes. 2 weeks later, I met the people I shared DNA with. The restaurant was canless, upscale, Seattle, with a view of Lake Union. It cost more to light the place for an hour than most families spend on groceries in a week. I picked it on purpose. Public, so my family couldn't make a scene. Expensive enough to keep them uncomfortable. I got there first, wearing a charcoal suit that cost more than the family's old monthly budget. The hostess recognized me from client dinners and led me to the private dining room. I sat, ordered wine, and waited. They arrived together, united front. Dad and Mom walked in first. I barely recognized them. Dad's hair was all gray now. Mom had new lines on her face. Both looked exhausted. Sienna came in next, clearly pregnant, hand on her belly, eyes down. Chloe followed, wearing last season's clothes and missing her usual designer accessories. She looked angry from the start. "Anya," Mom said, her voice caught between relief and scolding. "You came back." I nodded. "I've been working downtown. Didn't tell you." The unspoken message hung there. I'd been here, just not in touch. Dad cleared his throat. "We got your emails. 1 a month. I am alive and healthy. Do you know what that did to your mother?" "Yeah," I said. "It told you I was okay, but didn't let you find me or drag me back to fix your problems. That was the whole idea." Chloe slammed her hand on the table. "Your problems? Do you even get what you did to us?" Dad almost lost the house. Mom had panic attacks every time the phone rang. Sienna's wedding was a disaster. "You're so selfish, Anya. You just disappeared and left us all to suffer." I sipped my wine, calm as ever. "Left you to suffer or finally made you handle your own mess for once. We're family," Chloe shouted. "You don't just abandon family." "Family," I echoed, my voice colder than I felt. "Is that what we are, Chloe?" Family doesn't steal $5,500 meant for plane tickets and upgrade themselves to first class, leaving their sister to find a hostel. Family doesn't give away your bedroom to a stranger at your own sister's wedding. Mom winced. "That was a mistake, honey. We didn't think." "No, you didn't," I cut her off. "You just assumed I'd figure it out. Because I always do, don't I?" Nobody spoke. The table went silent. The waiter showed up with menus and yeah, he could definitely feel the tension, but he just did his job and ignored it. We ordered fast, barely looking at the options. No one was actually hungry. As soon as the waiter left, I kept going. "So, family. You brought it up, Chloe." I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila envelope, old and kind of battered. Set it right in the middle of the table. Chloe's eyes went huge. She knew what it was. "No," she whispered. "You wouldn't." "Open it," I told my parents. Dad picked it up, his hands shaking. He pulled out everything: police reports, court documents, lawyer bills. His face just went blank as he read through them. Mom leaned over, hand covering her mouth. "For years ago," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "Chloe got drunk at a party. She drove home anyway. Lost control, jumped a curb, smashed into a parked 1967 Jaguar E-Type. Totaled it. And then she took off." Dad looked up at me horrified. "A hit and run?" A felony hit and run, I said. Massive property damage. The guy who owned the Jaguar? He's this real estate big shot. He was out for blood. He wanted to press charges that would have stuck. Chloe would have a permanent record. Could have gone to prison. Chloe started crying. No sound, just tears running down her face. She came to me, I went on. Begged me not to tell you. Said it would kill you. So I emptied my savings, 17 grand for a lawyer who got her into a diversion program. Charges gone, as long as she finished it. Another 5,000 to settle the civil side, since insurance wouldn't pay when she ran from the scene. I wiped out my emergency fund, my 401k, took the penalty, everything. I looked her straight in the eye. I saved you from a record. I saved your future. Kept this secret for 4 years. And then you sold fake evidence about me to my old boss. For $10,000. Silence. The kind that aches. Then Sienna, barely above a whisper, Chloe, is this true? Chloe couldn't speak. She just nodded, mascara streaking her cheeks. Dad pushed his chair back, staring at her like she was a stranger. You did what? Chloe was sobbing now. Carson Locke came to me. He said Anya broke her contract, that she stole from him. He offered me money. I needed it. Mom and Dad cut me off. I couldn't pay rent. I didn't know what else to do. So you framed your sister? Sienna snapped, voice sharp and furious, nothing like I'd ever heard from her. The sister who kept you out of jail? I didn't think it would work. I don't know what I thought. Chloe's sobs got louder. Mom started crying too. Anya, I'm so sorry, Mom said. I didn't know any of this. Of course you didn't, I said. Because I handled it. I handle everything. Your taxes, your passwords, your bills, your problems. I'm your IT person, your accountant, your assistant, your emergency contact, your ATM. And you all just took it for granted. Dad's voice cracked. We didn't realize. You didn't want to realize I cut in. Because if you did, you'd feel guilty. You'd have to change something. It was easier to let me take care of it all and pretend I loved doing it. The food showed up. No one touched it. Just sat there. After a long silence, Dad spoke again. The IRS penalties. The credit card debt. We had to sell the lake house. We barely got anything for it. It was a distress sale. We needed the cash fast. I'm sorry you found out this way, but we don't own it anymore. I set my wine glass down. I know. Dad blinked. You know? The mysterious LLC that bought it this morning? I said. That was me. The table exploded. What? How? You bought the lake house? I pulled a set of keys from my purse and set them on the table, right under the light. I didn't hand them to anyone. Just let them sit there, shining. I bought it back. Paid cash. Offered 20% over market, so they'd take my bid right away. The deed is in my name. My LLC. My property. Dad's hands trembled. Why would you do that? Because you're right, the house shouldn't have been sold. We've had it for 20 years. Grandpa built that deck. Mom planted those roses. It matters. Mom reached for the keys. I pulled them back. But here's how it works now, I said. You can still use it, summer vacations, 4th of July, Christmas, whatever. No rent. But I decide who's allowed there. Who sleeps where. Who's welcome on my property. I looked straight at Chloe. You're banned. Chloe gasped. What? Until you pay back every penny you owe me, I said, doing the math out loud. $17,000 for the lawyer. $5,000 for the settlement. Add simple interest, 5%, for years. That's another $4,400. So now we're at $26,400 in total. And let's not forget the extra $10,000 you took from Carson, just to stab me in the back. I leaned in, made sure she heard every word. That brings us to $36,400. I'll send you the invoice. Chloe's face fell apart right there at the table. The lake house is my favorite place in the world, she whispered. You can't, I cut her off. I can. I am. Those are my terms. She looked at her parents, desperate. They both stared at anything but her. Sienna finally spoke, voice soft but steady. You earned this, Chloe. This is on you. Chloe started crying again, fresh and loud, but nobody reached out this time. The waiter showed up, saw what was happening, and slipped away with the untouched plates. Mom dabbed her eyes, but she didn't look at me. What do you want from us, Anya? How do we fix this? I stood up, grabbed my bag. I don't want anything from you. That's the whole point. I don't need you anymore. Not your approval, not your validation, not your love. I needed those things back when I was the family doormat, but that version of me vanished in a hostel in Peru. I took out my wallet and dropped 3 $100 bills on the table. Dinner's on me. Last gift. I walked to the door, then turned. You can keep using the lake house. Have your family parties, whatever. But it's on my terms now. I hold the keys, I have the deed, and I'm the one with all the power. I looked at each of them. This is what it feels like when someone else is in control. Maybe you'll learn something. Then I left them there, silent, surrounded by cold food. Outside, the Seattle night felt sharp and clean. I stood for a minute, breathing in the city, feeling lighter than I had in years. The first-class lounge at Seattle Tacoma looked just like Chloe's Instagram: leather chairs, endless champagne, walls of glass looking out at the runways. I tucked myself into a corner seat with a view of the planes, champagne in one hand, tablet in the other. I was already deep into contracts for the Singapore deal. Nexus was moving into Asia, and Beatrice picked me to run point. It was the kind of thing I never would have believed possible 2 years ago. 2 years. Was it really just 2 years since that call from my mother? Since the rain, the betrayal, the decision to disappear? It felt like a different lifetime, like it happened to someone else. My phone buzzed against the armrest. Text from Mom. Happy birthday, daughter. I'm sorry for everything. I'm proud of you. I stared at it. A year ago, hell, even 6 months ago, those words would have meant everything. I would have felt that old rush, that desperate relief from finally being seen. But now? Nothing. Not anger. Not even satisfaction. Not even the mean pleasure of being right. Just nothing. It was my 33rd birthday. I'd forgotten until my assistant reminded me yesterday, asking if I wanted the day off. I didn't. I had work to do. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could write something warm, open the door a crack. Or I could go sharp, twist the knife. I could write a whole essay about everything they did wrong. Instead, I typed 6 words. Thanks, Mom. I'm busy in a meeting. Polite. Distant. All business. I hit send and immediately switched my phone to airplane mode. The boarding call came over the speakers. First-class passengers could board when they liked. I gathered my things and headed for the gate. The flight attendant scanned my pass and smiled. Welcome aboard, Ms. Vance. We're glad to have you. I settled into seat 1A by the window. The seat was wide, plush, with more legroom than I knew what to do with. I took the champagne and leaned back, ready for takeoff. Chloe used to get seats like this on my dime, a cool $5,500. This time, though, I paid for it myself. Money I earned. Trip I picked. Place I actually wanted to go. No one snatched it from me. No one used me. No one just assumed I'd handle everything, like always. The plane rolled away from the gate. Out the window, Seattle started shrinking, the sound dark and blue and shining in the afternoon. I could see the skyline, those same buildings where I'd worked nonstop, hit every wall, and finally pulled myself up. My mind drifted to the lake house, my parents probably mapping out summer plans, tiptoeing around, still wondering if I'd change my mind. Then Chloe, probably piecing together a living, trying to figure out how she'd ever save up $36,400 with her influencer gigs. Sienna called a few days after that dinner. She apologized. Said she'd always known the family leaned on me too hard, but honestly, she liked being the golden child too much to speak up. She wanted a do-over. Real sisters this time, not just someone to use and someone to be used. I told her maybe. I can't close the door on her, but I'm not swinging it wide open either. The plane took off, and I felt the seat press against my back. Seattle faded away, turning into just another city from up here. I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I was finally just living my life, my choices. No one to answer to but myself. I closed my eyes and smiled. For the first time ever, I was free.